Hello and welcome to a new episode of Oriclopedia. It's been quite a while since the last episode. There have been a bit of logistic issues that happened that recently I got everything I needed. If you were in France in the 80s and interested in computers, you have to have heard about Hebdogiciels. It was an interesting magazine. Most magazines at the time were monthly issues. They were mostly about articles, technical things, advertisement, new product and things. And Hebdogiciel is basically originally mostly a magazine about typing programs. And after it evolved with actual articles about new products and things. And because typing is difficult, as everybody who tried to type some software knows, at some point Hebdogiciel made it possible to order actual tapes with all the typing, so you had to specify if you wanted games for your Oric 1 or for your Commodore 64, Amstradebdo, etc. But they also had, at some point, 3615 Hebdogiciel, which is a Minitel based server where you could download the games and play them on your Oric. So this thing is not very advanced. It's basically a small leaflet, tape on the cable, and that's about it. And I'm going to show how it was supposed to work. Obviously, we're in 2020, there is no more Hebdogiciel, which means the server does not exist anymore, but you will be able to see what it was supposed to do. The Hebdogiciel existed from October 83 to 87, and the name actually is a portemanteau between hebdo, which means weekly, and logiciel, which is software in French. The director of publication, Gérard Secaldi, who created the magazine, had bought a Texas Instruments computer, and there were no book for it. So he decided to write one himself, which he sold as Game and Programs for the T99. And then he extended the idea to create Hebdogiciel for other computers, because there were many computers in France which almost had no support, so people would be happy to find software. In addition to Hebdogiciel, they also released Amstradebdo, which is a non-official Amstrad magazine for which Amstrad tried to sue the company multiple times, as well as Lintox and Marcel, which are basically comic books related on the satirical news. Satire is one of the trademark of Hebdogiciel, which is something which has been very common in France for hundreds of years. And we know recently there's been problems with caricatures, but Hebdogiciel had the same issue. They've been sued by Apple, they've been sued by publishers, by Amstrad, for various reasons, saying that they were seeing fake news, but in any case, they almost always win because they didn't say anything wrong. Just the style, which was very sarcastic. I don't have the 168 numbers of Logiciel, I only have 3, but that's a good representative. So you have always a big title like All the Truth About the Oric Affair, which is about Denis Taïeb resigning from his position as Oric France. And then you can see, this is the article, follow up page 11, where you get more information, the continuation of the article. Here with Oric information, they're asking people from various magazines and resellers, and everybody is going to tell stuff. So yeah, this type of thing is what was making Hebdogiciel being sued also. So typically, you just have pages and pages of basic source code. That one is for the Spectrum, that one is for Apple II with DOS 3.3. Bidouille grenouille, which is tricks and tips on how to cheat or do practical things on your computer. So we have the Sharp MZ700, HP41, TRS-80. Here we have some reviews of games which have been released. That one, which I have on the Oric, but that one is a Thomson version. List of software, on which magazine you can find them in. How to learn your self-assembly programming, so la page pédagogique. On some of the listings were pretty impressive in terms of number of lines. So that one is for Oric 1 on Atmos, Echaffaudage, which means scaffolding, so probably a load runner clone. Excel Vision, which is a French computer which could speak, with a speech synthesizer. Prout d'or des logiciels. 100 publishers on the toilets, which is what they were thinking about the quality of the software. On here we have something about the Telestrat, communication from Eureka, who finally finished a usable version of the basic for the Telestrat, with 200 keywords, and with a gift for Oricians. They can take your old computer for 690 francs. New, it was still sold for 990 in exchange for buying a Telestrat. And fake news, also a software patch for the MIDI sockets will be implemented, so the Telestrat will be the second machine on the market with a standard MIDI interface. Yeah, except it never happened. The MIDI interface on the Telestrat is not actually usable. Some movie, so Blade Runner, more software. Another thing on which Hebdogiciel was well known is that it had a lot of small comics. These ones are from Carali, which been doing all these small ones for quite a while. But there are also some people like Eureka and many others been doing, which continue to do a drawing in comic books out of Hebdogiciel. So Amstrad. So that's the follow-up of the Prout, Golden Prout. So that's where they give sorting the software by quality of crappiness. Subscription to the magazine. On the big double page for advertisement for the Telestrat. We take back your old Oric 1 or Atmos for 690, limited offer until September 15, 1986. So the Telestrat system with this drive was at 5,260, so quite significantly more with the monitor. Without monitor, just one disk, it's still 3,300. And the club Hebdogiciel, which was one of the things that made Hebdogiciel being sued quite often, because they were trying to sell commercial software at a way lower price than the commercial price, so resellers were not happy, and unfortunately France was supposed to be a free competition world, country, but that was not really the case. So, list of software you can find on the various computers. Satire means what has just been released. You can see the price of the various computers at the time. 3D Boxing, Space Lab, Speed Loader, Tac Attack, another Oric game, and some more learning assembler, this time on Thomson, which is a 6809. Number 116, it is born the Divine Oric. Good thing we are not in April, because the announcement of a new Stratos, specially dedicated to the telematic and communication, we will not have believed it. Moon Patrol for Oric Atmos. So follow-up of the main article. A lot of non-safe for work pictures. And yeah, that's the typical Hebdogiciel type of humor. So this is an ad for subscribing to Hebdogiciel, but they call that la trappe couillon du siècle, which basically means the trap for moron of the century. Yes, it's increasing 11 francs instead of 10. Hard, isn't it? You will have to pay 1 more franc to get your weekly dose of magazine. Finish spending a huge amount of money on Malabar, which is a type of candy. Finished visiting the patisserie. Forgotten the hope of spending on your computer budget. You will have to spend the money or die stupid without the information that will make the difference between you and other people. And the other people which are reading L'Ordinateur Solitaire, Microvo, or Science et Vie Choucroute, which is basically the modified name of 3 other computer magazines. So, Rambo 2 on Return to the Future, advertisement for the Oric, full color page. Learning assembler on Apple on Spectrum. And that's all I have in magazines. Now I'm going to show you the actual software. So, as I mentioned earlier, Hebdogiciel stopped publishing in January 1987. We can see here this advertisement which says that you could start downloading things, but it's from October 1986. So basically this service has not been online for a very, very long time. So, download. The download distance of software, does that exist for microcomputer? Yes, it's new, and it is on the server of Hebdogiciel, and this is available right now. Go on your Minitel, type 13615 AG, and you can download. And then you have the actual details on how it works. And depending of the computer, so the only computers supporting that were the Amstrad, MSX, Thomson, and Oric. And you have 3 prices. The first price were for people who just wanted to get the service. The second price was for people who had the subscription. So instead of 150, they would pay 135. And price C is for the members of the Hebdogiciel club. And so you would pass your order and you will receive that. And this basically explains in detail how that works. So, as I showed you earlier, this is very simple. Software to download for Oric and Atmos. User manual of the user manual. Hello. If you are currently reading, this user manual of the software on downloading cable. To read it correctly, please take the paper straight between the thumb and the index at a respectable distance of around 40 centimeters and direct your sight to the superior, the top left corner of the paper. If nothing's written on it, you just got the wrong side. The user manual is only this part. So, the cable is made of 2 parts, respectively called the part with the DIN socket on the other side. Put the one there at the back of your Minitel. This is called the Informatique socket. That's where things like the printer could be plugged. And the other one on the printer port of your Oric. Do not plug or unplug when the computer is switched on. So we switch off the computer, we plug the thing, and we switch on the computer. and the Minitel is on with just a small F symbol. And for software, introduce the tape and type cload cut, and if it does not work, type call 44288. So, loading TT. So the autoload did not work, so call 44288. Name of the file, size of the file, number of blocks, number of the block, size of the block, number of package. And here we can see OK. And here we got the small OK displayed. So in theory, at this point, I should have used the keypad or the phone to type the access code. Then the Minitel modem would have been transferring data with the Oric. And then when it is in the memory of the Oric, then you could just save it on another tape. But there you go. That was how it worked. As you can see, the program was very fast to load, and it actually did load correctly, which is not very, very common with the Oric. So I guess they did a very good recording. So let's get a bit more information. So if you go in the description, you will see some of the links, like so hebdogiciel.free.fr, which is probably a fan, but maybe by some former people from Hebdogiciel. It basically, you have the listings, you have some information about various things. So it could be interesting. I did not really go there much, but you can see the software, for example, for the Oric is there. What's interesting is Abandonware magazine, where you basically have every single issue of Hebdogiciel. So you can just click on the first one, for example, and then you have all the source code, and you can even click to get more details. So it's not PDF, everything is in JPEGs, but they are in decent quality. Then you have the Internet Archive, which unfortunately is not as complete. Some of the issues are missing, but it's relatively practical to browse. Then on Le Virus Informatique, you have an interview of some of the people who were working on the Logiciel. It's all in French, but you can probably use Google Translate to get the core of the information. So that one is one of the pictures who got them in trouble. It's Alan Michael Schubert, the boss of Amstrad, as a Mickey Mouse. They did not really like it. And eaglesystem.free.fr, which is another interview, that one from the publishing director, where there is a lot of questions about the genesis, how it came up, and why it's closed. And then we have Oric.org. So you can go on software, type Hebdogiciel, and then you get all the programs which have been converted. So there are quite a few, but they were not all converted, actually more than that. And that one is of a particular interest, Acrobate. It's not a great game. It's all in BASIC, but it's been made by Pierre Palmade, who's a famous French humorist. So that's when he was around 14 or 15. And then he did some one-man show, sketches, become a comedian in theater, and directed some movies as well. So yeah, it's still kind of cool. Yeah, so you can see a bit of the action on the video. So not a great game, plus I think it's buggy. So in theory, you basically press space to get the small character to go as far as possible. And when you stop space, it drops. And you use left and right to move the balance, the trampoline. And the character jump up and down, and move a bit on the right side. But sometimes when they got stuck, and then they reappear on the left side, and there are some positions where you can't catch it. So I'm not sure it's because it was not correctly typed in, but yeah, there's definitely a problem. And I guess that's it. Bye bye.